Okay, let's do this here. Okay, we're on the record and calls. We're back on the record and calls number 322441, the state of Texas versus Stephen Creighton. Mr. Creighton case was called earlier. He did not answer. His attorney, Mr. Jansen Bailey, is here, and his attorney, Mr. Jansen Bailey, reported to the court that his client was in New York and pending a negative COVID test result. He was not able, or he could not leave the state of New York. And also, Mr. Jansen Bailey has provided the court as well as the district attorney with some paperwork, correspondence between Mr. Creighton and his employer, and correspondence between, and I guess this information was sent to Mr. Bailey today, which is January 4th of 2021. The court is reading the paperwork. The state has already read the paperwork. In reading this document, let's see, this document actually that came from Mr. Bailey today, it was a correspondence from, I guess, Mr. Creighton's supervisor to Mr. Creighton, informing that everyone needs to be in New York on Monday to be tested. This document, the date was sent on December 16th, Wednesday, December 16th of 2020. And apparently, I guess the Monday date that he was speaking of would have been December 21st. The test date that they were speaking of would have been Christmas Eve, December 24th. If I'm reading this letter correct. From the information that I have received, seemed like this negative test information is needed for Mr. Creighton's job, perhaps in New York. I don't have any information that says that this negative test results was a requirement of him to travel back to the state of Texas. Now, Ms. Ramos, do you have anything that says that Mr. Creighton could not return back to the state pending a negative COVID test?
Honor, it's my understanding that if you're waiting for results for a COVID test, you're not able to travel per the CDC's guidelines. And if you look, one of the emails does say that he did receive those negative results, but that email was sent this morning at 7:49. So it would have been very difficult for him to have traveled this morning from New York to get to here after receiving those results.
Okay, now let me ask you this. Just looking at this, so he traveled without getting any test results. He traveled to New York without testing. Do we?
Your Honor,
that I don't know.
So my question is regarding the travel requirements, because it seemed like the test results was a requirement of him being allowed to work in New York. So he had to travel to New York first. Is that correct? So he didn't take his test until he actually got to New York?
Your Honor, I'm unaware. I just restated to the court what was told me and forwarded the documents that allegedly purported to fall in line with what Mr. Creighton told me. And it does appear that he did receive a negative test this morning, or that email.
Right. That was a negative test for him to be cleared to work on the job in New York. But I think the court, I was under the impression that he needed a negative test result in order to travel.
Your Honor, I don't know the answer to that question. I read exactly what was sent to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if you can, what I'll do, the court is going to hold off on
Your Honor, he may not have something saying that he's not able to travel without it because it's per the CDC's guidelines that when you go to get tested, they tell you to quarantine until you get your results.
And every state is different about waiting pending. So if you're pending if you're pending a COVID test, then you're supposed to quarantine until you get the results.
Okay,
Now,
just, I understand what you're saying. Just get the court, a copy of those guidelines, okay?
yes, Your Honor.
And so we'll have them in the file. So like I said, the court is not going to forfeit the bond. We're gonna hold off on the bond forfeiture. We just need to get that information to the court.
Okay, so how would the court ask for me to present them with the CDC guidelines?
I mean, you can get a copy of, I mean,
You
I'm
want me
sure
to
they're
print it off
posted
and
somewhere.
hand it to
That'll
you?
be fine. It's the guidelines, the court will be able to take judicial notice of it.
Can I have it to you by the end of the day?
Yes, yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
we're not forfeiting the bond.
Okay, I'll have it to you. It'll be after.
Oh,
lunch.
that's fine.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you.